everyone, welcome back to my channel. You're watching The Brown Feminist. In today's video, I will be telling you a little bit about the realistic costs associated with attending a full-time nursing degree bachelor's program in Canada. So without further ado, let's get into it. Now, nursing is one of the more expensive bachelor's programs when it comes to Canada. Although it's not as expensive as medicine, it is pretty close to like the engineering and other kind of bachelor's programs where you have a typical 4-year school and the tuition is usually a little bit higher than like the average social sciences program. Now, the main problem that I personally had with nursing was that tuition itself was not the only cost. I'm going to be giving an example of what I paid to do a 4-year full-time bachelor's degree while attending the University of Ottawa's Bachelor's in Nursing program for 4 years. Although it does vary across provinces, it varies across universities, and even within the same university, there are different kinds of nursing programs. For example, the accelerated 2 years bachelor's program that we will not be like focusing on. I'm going to use the University of Ottawa standard 4-year bachelor's as like a baseline for the examples that I'm going to draw here today to kind of show you the type of costs and the extent of costs that you should be prepared. First off the bat, tuition, our biggest expense. And so tuition roughly when I went to school just very recently, it was about $9,000 a year. So that was in tuition, and then you would have like a few more additional ancillary costs like bus passes, meals, whatever else, you can add them onto it. But this does not include your living cost. So apart from that, if you're looking for living costs, typical nursing students live with roommates, although when you are a mature student like myself, you might be living with your partner, you might be living at home, you might be married and have kids, so everybody's living situation is different. Having said that, the way that the tuition is geared and the way that people usually get their student funding, they only give you like enough money for you to like kind of rent one room in a shared apartment. So they assume that the average cost of living is $500 to $700 a month, which is not really true even if you are sharing an apartment these days. So those are obviously aspects that you need to advance plan for and advance save up for, like how am I going to be paying rent and paying all of my bills when I'm in nursing school. So let's say the average cost of living is about $15,000 to $20,000 if you're like really being stingy and kind of living the student life. If you want to continue living your regular life, you would still need to have enough money to go beyond to like $25,000 a year or $30,000 a year. It's expected that unlike when you are working or when you are on the summers, you're not really working throughout the whole year during nursing. And as the years go by, your ability to keep a part-time job keeps reducing significantly. So by the 4th year, the school actually announces that guess what? There's going to be a whole term of your internship where you can't even work at all because you'll just have to be at the hospital at all odd hours, and we don't want to hear reasons like I have a job. No, you are not even expected to have a job in your final year of school, and you're expected to have saved up all of this like money to pay for your rent and living costs and your commute and everything else. Next up is additional expenses. Now, this is a hidden expense that I had no idea would be a part of nursing school, and that is the certifications. So as you're going through nursing school, you might think like, okay, one of the entry requirements is that you do a CPR certification with emergency first aid. It's usually like $50, $120, something like that. So you think it's a one-time cost, but it really is not. Every single year that you're in the program, you need to like keep relicensing your CPR and other forms of certification. In my 2nd year, they had a little special recommendation. We had to do like an NVCI, like a nonviolent crisis intervention certificate. We had to do a gentle persuasive approach. And there's all of these different kinds of certifications that you need to keep doing throughout the years. And all of that you are paying for out of pocket. So don't forget to actually account for all of these additional certification costs, which can be between $100 a year to $400 or $500 a year, depending on how many of them you have to do in a given year. And of course, on those days that you're taking the certifications, it's also like lost wages and time and commute and everything else. Then, of course, you need to be updated on your immunizations. So the good thing is if you're living in Canada, your flu shots are free. If you're living in Canada, then getting an N90 5 mass fit tests would only cost you like $20. Try to get it through a hospital institution. Now, moving on to our next hidden cost. This wasn't fun, but actually being in nursing, I realized like how many things I just needed to buy for myself to constantly be ready to be an ideal nursing student. And that means having to buy your own stethoscope. It's not that you were absolutely required to. There were shared stethoscopes that were on the hospital units. A lot of them were very old, not very good. You couldn't hear very well, and it goes in and out of other people's ears. So there's all of that. And so most of the students who didn't want any distraction and wanted to get that little pediatric heartbeat sound just right, all of us, almost everyone I know, went ahead and bought their own stethoscope, which was like another $150, $200 for a good one. That's not the only cost. Apart from that, your uniforms and scrubs, that's another hidden cost. So all the scrubs that you wear in nursing school in Canada, from all of my experiences across all of the placements, we always had to buy our own. And you can't just buy one pair of scrubs and just use them all the time, because you're required to wear scrubs on days you go to the lab, on days you go to the unit, and you have to wash them after every wear, because otherwise you could be cross-contaminating. You could be bringing germs back from one hospital unit and then again carrying it and wearing it back there another day and harming your patient and risking yourself. So of course, you needed to invest in like good scrubs to last you a week and then do all of your laundry on a weekend. And scrubs are not cheap. The scrubs that I bought, I would usually buy like the top for like $50, $60, the bottom for like $70, make up these sets. So on my first year, I only had one pair of scrubs and one hand-me-down. My second year, I had 3 or 4 pairs of scrubs. By my final year, I had about 7 or 8 pairs of scrubs. So yes, it is quite an expense, and you don't usually account for all of these when you're going into nursing school, because you feel like, okay, tuition, I have a scholarship, or tuition, I have a grant or a loan, so I'm good. And then all I have to worry about is kind of like my food and my rent. But no, you have all of these additional expenses. The next hidden expense, which is not really hidden, but it's like just a practical thing that you end up spending more on, is you end up spending more on your food and your commute when you're doing your hospital shifts. The hours by 3rd and 4th year start to become so crazy that you really don't have time to do a lot of meal prep and pack your lunch every single time for a night shift and then a morning shift the next day. So as a result, what happens is that you end up eating at the hospital cafeteria, which can be pretty expensive. You can be eating at like the Tim Hortons one day and somewhere else another day. You're buying more coffee or more juice or buying water sometimes if you forget to take your water bottle. So your food costs add up. Now coming to commute, while typically you have a lot of time to maybe take the bus, take public transport, or walk to the hospital, as your life gets busier by 4th year, you're really like having to Uber home. A lot of the times your shift ends so late at night that your last bus is gone for the day, or it's going to take forever to come. So you do end up doing a little bit more of taxiing and Ubering when you're there. As a result, your living cost also starts to increase. Couple that with the fact that you're not working as many hours in your 3rd and 4th year, nursing school can become very expensive. So my personal recommendation to all of you is to really budget what you need per year, including your certifications, your scrubs and your stethoscopes and everything else, your calculators, books and other accessories that you need, your goggles, whatever it is that you might need to practice, to be a good student, to buy your books and your access codes for different courses. Add that with potentially increased commuting costs, potentially increased food costs, and then see what comes out of it. By 4th year, a lot of students also like to move to an apartment that is near the hospital, so their commutes are shorter. But a lot of apartments that are near the hospital, or a lot of rental rooms that are near the hospital, are often also more expensive because they are so sought after by all the hospital staff. So that also goes to make a rent kind of bump up a little bit if you're trying to like live close to the hospital. So all of that aside, nursing school is an incredible experience. You get to learn so much, and everyone that I have ever known has been committed to my success. Every coordinator, every lab instructor, every teacher, even my like fellow nursing classmates have been so supportive. I've been in a different field and I've never felt this kind of support from the staff and student community before. I've been in basic science, I've been in immunology, I've been in laboratory environments and clinical environments, but really the commuting of nursing, at least I can speak on behalf of like University of Ottawa, it is extremely supportive and fruitful, and the most amazing experience that I've ever had. Unfortunately, I did need to defer one of my years in third year and just take a year off to kind of like recover from some health stuff, and also to work for a full year at full time, just so I could like save up enough money, be out of debt, and not be constantly having like panic attacks like, how am I going to come up with rent for next month? So ideally you wouldn't have to need to take a year off. So all the summer, work really hard, save up money. The year before you go down into nursing school, if you have a year off before your high school or whatever you were doing before, really save. If you can come in with like $10,000-$15,000 safe as a backup, that is the ideal. Then while you keep working for a second and third year, you can always like dip in a little bit and like support your living and have that as like a supplementary source of income, or a little nest to kind of help you through the tough times, and then you won't have to take time off. Apart from that, I will have another video coming up very soon that will be focusing on how you can actually work while in nursing school, what kind of money you can make, what are the best choices, where do you get better rates of pay, and why. So if you have any more questions related to that, please do comment down below so I can include that in my next video. Until then, this is the Brown Feminist. Hope you have a wonderful week. Bye.